I mean, this is a trophy hunt. We're not out here to enjoy the fight of a large trout. I want you to get it in as fast as you can without pulling the hooks out of it. Before I started guiding, so late 90s, but made a heavy emphasis probably once I got into my second, third year of guiding. Down on the PM, it was more of a go out and fish with fellow guides kind of thing. Not a lot of guiding specifically at night, targeting big browns. It was kind of more a guide thing at that time. So yeah, it's been a minute, literally. For me, I mean, I'll be honest, like I could start probably as early as June, but I mean, there's so much good fishing that goes on before we get into the midsummer kind of non-hatch times, right? So primarily for me, it's usually based completely around the moon phase starting in July. And by around the moon phase, I mean focused around the new moon. It's not to say you can't go out, catch a fish or two on a brighter night, but it's just like shooting arrows over your big buck, and I just can't do it mentally. So it's good to give the river a break. I know I put enough pressure on it myself with the number of trips that I do. Try to spread that out a little bit, different sections here and there, but yeah, pretty much July into August. That's my window. And some years I only get 2 moon phases. Some years I'm blessed with 3. So that's pretty much how I run that program. It's all based around the new moon. New moon's peak, and then the quarters on each side of that.
How many nights a week?
Well,
I mean, you have to commit to that.
Oh yeah, it's 17, 18 nights in that window. Do you want the real answer? I'm out there every night.
Yeah.
Yep, I don't take nights off. It's a short window and it's a high demand, so yeah, I work every single one. I might look like a zombie on morning 19, but once you get through the first couple days, it's not that bad. Yes and no. Yes, meaning I feel like the bite windows are different. There's other influences that impact my bite. And some years they're more frequent than others. Take the Northern Lights, for example. It's not one you probably think about. There's nights where they really weren't visible, but my bite wasn't lining up with the traditional windows. And I have to ask myself, what's up? Like, all the other conditions are there. Yeah, fish don't always bite every day, right? But I expect to see a certain level of encounter on a nightly basis. And when I'm well below that level, it kind of raises the flag like, all right, what am I missing? I think also where those fish like to hunt, and I don't mean from a space perspective, I mean more from like a water column height perspective, has changed. There's nights where, they're exclusively feeding on flies that are designed to sit really high in the water column. And then there's nights where they won't touch it. I don't know if cool is the word I would use to describe it, but there's a lot of, I get a lot of gratification out of seeing the excitement that people have. I've heard comments that, it's the easiest way to catch big trout. Maybe, but it really isn't. I mean, I make it easier for people because I know where to put the casts. I know what flies to use. I'm out there every day, so I'm in tune with the trends that I'm seeing, and I have things that I can fall back on when things are not working, right? And then obviously there's nights where they just bite really good and you feel like a hero when you're done, and then you have your nights where it's a struggle. I feel like those are the nights I learn more than when it's good. But to see that excitement in a customer's face when he turns around, he's like, oh man, that's the biggest brown trout I've ever caught in Michigan, or that's the biggest trout I've ever caught in my lifetime. Or if it's even his first fish that he's caught mousing, it doesn't even have to be big. that's, to me, that's what kind of keeps me going. It's not necessarily the numbers or the overall size. You know, those are all comparisons I do internally to see how the progress of the program is going. Either, you know, there's complications to conditions or angler ability. You know, what can I do differently? And you have to kind of be able to adjust on the fly, right? Because let's face it, I'm only as good as my customer's ability. And to make that cast completely with the lights out, understand the distance I'm asking you to make it at, and then to be able to visualize how I want you to retrieve your fly, all at the same time waiting for that fish that you don't know is coming to blow up on that thing, and for you not to set too early. That's not easy. That takes a lot of concentration. Sometimes it's just dumb luck, right? I'm not naive. There's those instances where fish are committing suicide essentially, right? But to me, when you put all that together and you look at the complexities of navigating a boat, putting people in position, and understanding where these fish live, move, hunt, all that stuff put together, yeah, it's pretty rewarding at the end of the day, especially when you walk away from it, you're like, wow, that was pretty good on a night that maybe it wasn't supposed to be good, right? So those are the things that kind of drive me and push me. I'm never satisfied, and I've always said, if the minute I sit down and feel like I'm completely satisfied is where I'm at, that's the day you walk away. If you're not learning every day, every night, then why are you out there? That's how I look at it. Oh, absolutely. I can think of a couple times, where Russ and I fished together, and he would always jokingly say, like, do you know where you're at? And what he's saying is exactly how I approach it. You need to know exactly where you're at. Like, I don't navigate with the lights on unless it's a tight corridor and I know there's some tight trees we got to navigate through. Why risk breaking a rod tip or hurting somebody? So I just flick it on for a second. But man, when you turn that light on, even for 30 seconds at night, you're blind for quite a while, right? So basically the only time I really use it's fly change, net a fish, and then you're sitting there for 4 or 5 minutes while your eyes readjust. But yeah, you have to have, I call it the cognitive map, right? It's in my brain. I know where, as I'm coming down, I have reference points, that I can see on the tree line or on the bank. And for me, navigating at night is pretty easy because I have that map in my head. I know if I see this twig, this stick, this tree, this bend, this rock, whatever, this log, oh, okay, I gotta be over here just a little bit more. In all my spots, I have reference points as I come into them. Like, boat position's key. And without it, your success rates are not gonna be as high. Well, I think it's the complexity of putting it all together. And I'm kind of blessed with a calendar that's full of people that I've fished with for a long time, right? So anytime I get somebody new, it's always it makes me a little more nervous and apprehensive, only because I haven't fished with them much, so I don't know their tendencies, I don't know what they can take, because you do have to be willing to grind. It's not like every night they're jumping in your boat all night, every night. That's not a reality. You will have periods where you gotta grind. You may not catch anything, or you may catch the biggest one of your lifetime. You never know, right? And it's different night to night. So taking somebody that hasn't had that experience and then trying to get them to where they can have success, that in itself is probably one of the biggest challenges that I'll have to deal with on a night of mousing. But it's also rewarding, like I said earlier. But yeah, I think a lot of it's just like getting him to visualize what he's doing. If he can do that conceptually in his mind, then it makes what's happening on the water a lot easier. Some people pick it up really quick, others struggle with it a little bit. It's not like the cast is really hard. Like, my rig is set up to deliver the fly where I need it with minimal effort, right? I try to make it easy. But sometimes when the lights go out, the guy that could cast really good in the daytime struggles in the dark. I've seen it. I had a customer describe it to me one time as going into a closet, shutting the lights off, and casting a fly rod. Well, that's literally what it is. Now, we have a little bit more light than that because, you know, starlight does matter. So, yeah, so I'm not really a big glow line fan. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense that I'm going to cast a fly all the way across the river and drag a glowing line back to me with my fly trailing behind it, right? I'm a little old school in that way. So, you know, basically using like a heavier taper. Yeah, so the Magnum taper, but without the glow, you can get it in a non-glow. From there, I build my own leaders typically. I like to keep them 5-6 feet in length, and a lot of that will depend on what section I'm fishing and water clarity. If it's a little clearer, I'll run a little longer because I want more of that neutral movement. Shorter leader obviously is heavier, so heavier tippets. Pretty much maxima. You know, I start at 30, 20, 15. 12 would be as low as I go, and that would be pretty high in the system if I'm gonna run something that light. Don't lose many fish to break-offs, but typically 15 pound, 20 and 30, 3 sections totaling 4 or 5 feet in length. As far as rods, I mean, this is a trophy hunt. We're not out here to enjoy the fight of a large trout. I want you to get it in as fast as you can without pulling the hooks out of it by doing it too quickly. But essentially, 8 weights, 9-foot 8 weight is perfect. I've had fish beat a 7 weight. Don't come undergunned. Come with the right tool for the job. Plus an 8 weight will deliver some of the flies I'm fishing much easier than a 7, right? I'm running a 9 weight line on an 8 weight. That design is to help on that short cast. And it also helps to turn over bigger flies if needed. As far as flies, I've got a couple that obviously I've created and come up with there in Montana Fly, Amphibious Assault, my mouse. But, you know, a lot of my stuff is in that size spectrum, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit smaller. But the idea is, you know, quick, rapid fire, accuracy, and then still have the power to keep that fish out of the wood, because big brown trout, what do they do when you hook them? They go for it, right? And if you're not fishing with a rod that's designed to move that fish with leverage and tip it strong enough to maintain that stress, well, you're just compromising your success and the fish. Because let's face it, this is a warmer time of the year. Coolest water temps are at night, but you don't want to apply as much stress if we don't have to, right? So get them in quick. Yeah, really the biggest difference between the two that are in MFC's catalog, the design of the fly is the same. It's just the appearance, right? So I've always said that we've kind of misnamed the sport of mousing. It should be frogging. Let's be honest, especially on the upper Manistee, the majority of what these fish are encountering on a nightly basis is more on the amphibious side than it is on the rodent side. Now, with that being said, there is a mouse window, if you will, but that typically happens in mid-late August when a lot of those deer mice are becoming more migratory and moving around a lot more. But the major design itself was kind of by accident. I was looking to get off the one hook profile and do more articulation, and I actually had a creeper that I was fishing, and the foam blew up off the back, and I kept fishing it because it happened to be the only one I had left in my box, so it was out of necessity, and it kept working. But what I noticed was we were hooking more. I'm like, odd. So I'm looking at it. Foam's blowing up off the back. Still attached at the front, right? And I was like, well, there's something to this. So I threw it back in the river, turned my light on, and the whole backside of that fly dropped down, right? Immediately the light went on. I'm like, all right, how can I replicate this on purpose, articulate it, and and just started playing with stuff. And rabbit's heavy, right? Holds water. Well, enter the brush. You know, the brushes have been around for a while, and just playing with materials started kind of, you know, the first couple generations were pretty archaic by my standards. They worked, right? But the most important change that I made in that whole design really was the attachment point for the foam stayed the same, but I did not pull it over the entire fly and tie it off in the back. And that was intentional to get everything to sink down and stay down. So when that fish comes through that fly and eats it, he's getting 100% contact on that hook. What I've noticed in the past with any fly that has foam pulled over the top, attached at the back of the hook to the front, is sometimes they're so aggressive when they come in on their strikes, they will actually move that fly and displace it before they even get a chance to put their mouth on it. So that hookup percentage was kind of where it pushed me in that direction with the shank and the hook. And I'm very specific on the hook. Like that, there's one that I run, and that's it. And that's the Gamakatsu Finesse Wide Gap. Oh, the color thing. Well, some people tell you color doesn't matter. Does it? Absolutely it does. But you have to think about it in a way that's different than the color that you and I perceive. What's the difference between black and white? Obviously, there's quite the contrast in coloration, right? But what happens when you shine that under UV? That's how you have to think about it. And as I have more ambient light, the UV thing becomes more important, meaning the more light I have, the more UV I need. And it's noticeably different. Now, there are some nights where it doesn't seem to matter, but I will say that my darker flies aren't really as good on those really bright nights as some of the, like the mouse and the frog, that have that white belly. Well, if you hit with a UV light, it lights right up. Legs, they light right up. I do believe you got to have hot spots, and I think UV is very important, especially at night. Some people probably think, "Wow, he's crazy. What is he talking about?" But if you think about what UV light is, it's in the same spectrum as moonlight. It's a blue light, and it has the most penetration of any light into clear water. And it's primarily at night, right? Moonlight. So when that moon gets bigger, that influence becomes greater. Well, you have to play into that trigger. And that's how I dictate my color selection. It's more based around lighting than anything. You know where I found that out by accident? A customer, I never fished white until like 9 years ago. Brought his own fly, big old white thing about this long. I'm looking at it, I'm like, white, really, dude? Like, I don't catch shit on white. And he's in the back of the boat. The fly that's been destroying him for 3 nights in a row is in the front of the boat. The moon's up high. It's under a quarter, but it's still having influence, right? And he's 7-1 out of the back. Both anglers are evenly skilled. So you tell me what it is. So I'll pretty much do what probably most guides will do. You got a confidence fly. That's out there to start. And then I'll have my second confidence fly, but maybe it's one that sits a little bit lower in the water column versus the other one. And I'll just start there. Like, this has worked the last couple of days. And I know, like, as times go on throughout the night, that my lighting at some point is going to change unless it's a new moon, right? There's going to be an influence one way or the other. Cloud cover is the other one. And then the Northern Lights, which I mentioned the other night, that's like adding moonlight that's not moonlight, right? And that one, to me, the more I think about it and pay attention the last year, and we'll see what, we're supposed to have another big solar burst kind of year, right? Where we're going to have Northern Lights exploding again this summer. That's the prediction anyway. So I'll just keep taking mental notes. But what I saw last year was essentially those nights were in periods of the nights when the Northern Lights were really active. My bite was pretty weak. And if you're out there every night, you see it. You're like, man, it's just bright tonight. What's going on? There's no moon. You're nowhere near moonrise or moonset. You know, like what's the deal? Like why is it so bright out here? And it's the northern lights, but you can't see them with your naked eye. So I just started putting my camera up every night when I'd have that window and just scan the tree line, and you'd see them dancing, right? That was the only way you could see them. But so yeah, that played a major impact. Really haven't found a way really to deal with that outside of just grinding through that slow period. Some nights it's all about getting to a trigger. By a trigger, I mean like a moonset or a moonrise. You're gonna have one or the other in any given night. Some nights you might have them both. But you know, when that moon's getting treetop level, whether it's coming down or going up, whatever was slow now is on go. Like, get ready. That's your bite window. How long it will last, that's hard to say. But you hear a lot of people talk about, oh, the death fog. Doesn't scare me. You know, I've fished right through it. I've had some really good nights on nights where you're kind of like, wow, that was brutal. Because I don't know if you've been out there in fog, even with the lights off, it's tough on the eyes. Like your eyes are constantly fighting, trying to gather as much light as they can to function. And that fog is just dissipating any penetration in your eyes. And I've actually had a couple nights where it caused me to have a headache, literally, right? Because you just feel your eyes strain. You know, and I've had some really good nights on new moons, but most of them I find are really difficult because it is the darkest night and everybody's got to be on point. I have to be on point. My anglers have to be on point. And if you have cloud cover and no starlight, it is dark. Very dark. But yeah, you know, you just have to be willing to grind, go through your process, change flies if they're not working. Not only change the fly, but change how you're fishing the fly. Maybe you need to speed it up. Maybe you need to slow it down. How I fish it, it's probably completely different from a lot of folks. If you're a walk and wait angler, you're kind of limited to how you can approach the stream, right? So you're in a stationary position. You pretty much are stuck to either fishing upstream or downstream. And if you're fishing downstream, you're primarily fishing on the swing. So kind of leaves you to what I call a passive aggressive way to fish. It's just what it is. I would consider the way I fish kind of more of an in-your-face style, more aggressive, but you still have that finesse too, right? And basically I'm just trying to get my cast as close to the bank as I can. And then I'm going to try to emulate how a frog would move in the water column coming off the bank to the middle. And I don't really care what I'm fishing. I'm fishing a frog the entire time. Whether it's a mouse pattern, a frog. The only differences I will make would be the length of the pause in my strip. And I'm trying to move that fly 10 to 14 inches, right? You think how a frog swims, he pumps and glides, stops, kicks his feet and glides again. So there's this glide pause, right? And I always tell my guys, if you're moving it too fast, you're not giving that fish a kill shot. You gotta let the fly die to let that fish have a chance to eat it. You can't see them coming, right? Now, I will admit that sometimes I can see a wake if I get the right moonlight and glare coming off a shallow spot or, you know, coming just behind the fly. That is very rare opportunity indeed, but I have had that happen where you could actually see the fish coming. But for the majority of the time, you cannot see the fish coming. You have no idea he's there. So why not just kill it? Think about it. As you start to move the fly again, he's either going to bite it just before that, or he'll bite it on the next pause. But you have to approach like every cast is the one, right? It's big fish fishing. It's no different than when you're streamer fishing. We're just doing it in the dark. So take that same mindset and then break up your retrieve, longer pauses, shorter pauses, figure out what those fish want. And it can change throughout the night. What was working early might not be working late. So you have to be adaptable and you have to be able to change on the fly. And keep it simple, but just throw little tweaks into it. I probably wouldn't run right out to the river and jump in it at night, right? For your first time. I would probably take it in baby steps. First of all, I would get to the point where you're confident casting 30 feet with the lights out, right? Where you're not going to hook yourself or your fishing partner if you're in a boat. You especially don't want to hook your guide, right? And then once you get to that point, understanding like a piece of water, learning it well before the lights go out would be a very important thing to do from a safety perspective. Some of our streams like the Upper Manistee are chock full of wood, and if you're not comfortable with where you're walking, you can take a swim pretty easy, right? So being familiar with, a small piece of water that you can tackle safely, I think getting in and getting out, those are important things to understand. And then, you just go you don't have to go like gung-ho all in, work up to that point. Like go out for you may find out it's something you don't even like. And it's not for everybody. And I will tell people when they want to book the trip, like, this may or may not be for you. So if at some point you're like, this really isn't for me, don't be afraid to tell me, because I wouldn't mind the extra Z's, right? We can push out. So I'm not going to make you, fish all night if that's not something you want to do. But yeah, I would say break it down. Make sure you think safety first. A lot of bad things can happen very quickly when you can't see it coming. And it's midsummer, right? And if mousing's not your game, then maybe you should book a smallmouth trip. There's some crossover there. Just, albeit it's all with the lights on. There you go. Just for you, Johnny.